Hi, in this video, we're going to talk about Alteryx Analytical Applications. Alteryx Analytical Applications are designed to take an Alteryx visual workflow and operationalize it for use by a broader set of users inside of an organization. Business analysts have the ability to construct a parameter-driven interface to expose a series of questions that drive that visual workflow behind the scenes. In this session, you're going to learn how to build and execute an analytical application. You'll also learn how to deploy an analytical application directly to the Ultrix public gallery for consumption by a broader set of users. In order to illustrate how to construct an analytical application for construction by a broader set of users, we're going to enter into the Ultrix Designer desktop engine. You'll notice on screen that I've already constructed a visual workflow. The visual workflow is quite simple. Through our text input tool, we have a series of office locations scattered throughout the US. There's a filter inside of here that's going to filter out each individual office and then run it through a trade area creation process and ultimately create a finalized map. If I go ahead and process this visual workflow, we're going to get a PDF output report that will just illustrate where that location is as well as the 5-mile radius constructed around that site. Now what I'd like to do is take this visual workflow and essentially operationalize it. What we'll do is we'll create a parameter-driven application that will provide an end user with the ability to filter the store based off of or office that they would like to look at. And then they're going to have an option to construct either a radius trade area or a drive time trade area. What I've put onto the canvas is a series of detours which will help the user actually direct the flow. If they choose drive time, we'll actually have the module flow through this trade area tool. If they choose radius, we'll actually have the visual workflow flow through the upper part of the stream and construct our output. In order to do this, what I'll do is I'll go to the properties configuration for the module and I'll toggle the type from a module to an analytical application. Once I do that, I see a series of lightning bolts appear on top of each of the individual tools. This means that I can begin to dynamically update them and construct my interface. In order to construct the interface, I'll go into the Interface Designer tools. And the first thing that we're going to focus on is presenting a list or a drop-down list for a user to select a series of the offices. In this case here, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click onto the canvas, a drop-down. And what we'll do is we'll populate this with a series of values. In this case here, we'll just manually set those values, one per line. So we have Boulder, Irvine, San Mateo, Chicago, and Dallas. Okay. Based off of this drop-down, we'd like to dynamically update this filter tool. What I can do is attach this question directly to the lightning bolt, and an action will appear in the middle. The action will help me assign or tell the tool how to update. In a sense here, what we're going to do is we're going to take the value selected through this drop-down and replace the value of Boulder on the filter. So all we're going to do is replace a specific value, in this case, Boulder. At this point here, what we'd like to do is present to the end user the ability to toggle between drive time and radius. In order to do that, what we need to do is actually have a radio button. I can click and drag that radio button directly onto the working canvas. The default here for this radio button is going to be a radius. We're going to go ahead and make this the default, meaning that it's going to be selected at the start. With each radio button, we're also going to have a numeric up and down. This numeric up and down will dynamically replace the size of that trade area inside of the trade area tool. In this case here, we can enter some text that says, please enter radius in miles. Okay. We can have a minimum of 1, maximum of 100, increment by 1, and default it maybe to 15. And what we can do is actually have that dynamically update this trade area tool. Okay. Through the action, we're going to go ahead and we'll update this by default and move forward. At this point here, what I'm going to do is go to my view. I'm going to go ahead and open up my Interface Designer and we can get a quick preview for how this application is being constructed. Okay. We can see the radius, we can see a drop down, and we can move things around. The great thing about this environment is that it's interactive. I can actually move this radius parameter directly to be encapsulated inside of the radio box itself. So that way, this will toggle on and off if I select it or not. In parallel, what I'm going to do is actually click and drag onto the canvas a secondary radio button. The radio button, in this case, is actually going to be for the drive time. This radio button, if selected, will dynamically update my detour tool to shift the detour from the right to the left, or I should say from the left to the right. In this case here, this action becomes fairly simple, and it's going to update the direction directly from the question. In parallel, we'll also have another numeric up and down that will basically say, please enter drive time in minutes. Again, it'll be a minimum of 1, maximum of 100. We can increment by 1 and make the default 15. We'll have this numeric up and down dynamically update our trade area tool with the action already preset. If I go back to the Interface Designer, I can see that layout again. I can go ahead and take my numeric up and down and place it directly inside of the drive time, or essentially create a grouping here, so that way the toggle between the radio buttons will turn on and turn off the numeric up and down feature. The nice thing about the Interface Designer as well is that we can also test the view. Okay, so we can actually see how this will look in real time. If I toggle to drive time, this becomes active. If I toggle back to radius, this becomes active. If I drop down my list select box, I can see the values to work with. It's from here that I can also open this module in debug mode to see if this will run correctly in a production ready environment. I'm going to go ahead and close this real quick and save this now as an analytical application. So I'm going to go to the file drop down menu and select save as. We'll select this as an analytical app, which takes on the YXWZ format. And once I do that, I'm going to have a 1 that's presented to me inside of the Designer desktop. If I select this, it will run this application as an analytical app. I can go ahead and with the defaults, just simply hit finish and have the application run through. We can see the resultant PDF is a 15-mile radius around that Boulder-based office. Now, if I wanted to iterate through this application, what I can do is maybe change the drop down here to look at the Chicago area office. And then I can make this a drive time trade area, toggling this to be 18 minutes. Once I hit finish, that same process will run, but now that detour will update and toggle this over to construct an 18-minute drive time around that Chicago-based office, which is located in Naperville, Illinois. The result is that PDF document, and now I can actually see a nicely constructed drive time trade area around that office location in Naperville. Last but not least, we can take these analytical applications and we can operationalize them or expose them via a gallery instance of the Ultrix web framework. In order to publish this to a consumer-ready environment, all an end user has to do is go to the File drop-down menu and say Publish App and select Publish App to Web. Through here, what they can do is point directly at the Ultrix Analytics Gallery, enter a username and password, and hit Publish. With one click, this application will be published directly to the gallery environment for consumption by a broader audience. A user can then toggle over to the Ultrix public gallery. They can enter into the site via a logon and gain access to the application that they just published. All published applications will land directly inside of a private studio for end users to execute or share with others inside of the organization. You can see my analytical application here. If I were to click on it, I can run it and be exposed to the same UI or interface that I saw at the desktop. Through here and through my drop-down, I can now select the Irvine office. We can toggle the radius to be maybe slightly less, 10, and hit run. This will process the same exact visual workflow that you saw at the desktop level, running directly on a server. The result, again, is my PDF that I can download and open up. The great thing about the gallery is that it's a great environment to operationalize all of these analytical processes for broader consumption through those parameter-driven interfaces. Thank you.